Hebrews 12, still. Last time I talked about verse 5, um, a quotation from the book of Proverbs. My son, do not make light of the Lord's discipline, and do not lose heart when he rebukes you. Easy to say, kind of hard for me to do. And then he goes on in verse 6, because the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and he chastens everyone he accepts as his son. Discipline and chastening. What is chastening? When he chastens, what does that mean? We don't use that word conversationally very much. It basically means a rebuke. A chastening is, well, in most of our worlds, it would be, hey, quit that. I mean, it's not some big, deep, complex, philological thing. It's about not just warning. I mean, warning would be, hey, 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 hey. No, a chastening is stop it. I mean, stop it right now. It's a very parental thing, but, well, yeah, in this context, chastening is a rebuke, and it can even come in the form of spanking. What an old-fashioned word, right? You know, I am given to understand that in some states, if you spank your child and someone is offended by that, and they call, child services, you could be arrested. I grew up in the spanking area. In fact, my dad didn't spank. He whooped. And I'm sure it wrecked me on some level, but I don't think it did. Okay, so that I've got a whole big deal on that in my repertoire of parenting things, but you don't need that. The thing is, when the Lord disciplines us and chastens us, it's because he loves us and accepts us as his children, sons and daughters. So I want to be considered by him to be one of his children. And if that's going to be the case, I'm going to get disciplined and I'm going to be chastened. You know, if you're a parent, you know that there are times when the child doesn't like the discipline that you're enforcing. What's the point of discipline? To teach. In my opinion, in the parenting scope, discipline asks the question, how can I help you not do that again? Or, I mean, that's for a misbehavior, but for a good behavior, discipline also asks, how do I help you keep doing that? To chasten is to get the child's attention so that discipline can take place. And I think God uses that all the time in our lives. He spanks us to get our attention. And you know what? Sometimes, I would say most of the time, my spankings from God are the logical consequence of my own bad choice. And on occasion, more than a little, the result of my sin. The consequences can punish. Pick up on that, parent. I don't think that I know of, there are almost no young parents who tune into Soul Care with Stevie Boy. And I don't blame them. You got bigger fish to fry. You're raising kids. And so, anyway, All right, got that off my chest. Go to verse 7. Endure hardship as discipline. I'm not a fan of hardship. I like my comfort. I like things to be not very hard. Maybe a little challenge for the stimulation of it, but man, I don't like it. I do not like hardship. But it will happen. It's not like if you encounter hardship, endure it as discipline. No, you're gonna have hardship. You can't get around it. You can't live in a bubble because you can't control enough things to control hardship away. It's gonna happen. And when it does, treat it like discipline. So, the question, discipline on both the negative and the positive, really boils down to what did you learn from this? Or what are you learning from this? It's a great question to ask in hardship. I think maybe the best question would be in the form of a very tiny prayer. God, what are you teaching me through this? What am I supposed to be learning through this? There are times in my experience when I pray that prayer and God doesn't say anything to me. I don't hear anything. I don't, I've never heard the voice of God. I've never heard him speak into my life and situation. I've read scripture that applies to it. I have friends that I'm on a deep enough level of security with and trust that they can speak into my life, and I think God speaks to me in those ways, but I've never heard a voice. There are times when I've prayed, what are you teaching me through this, that in the midst of the hardship, I'm not getting anything here. Sometimes, for me, and I don't know that it's surely not universal, but I wonder if part of this, and again, I'm just thinking about my own life's experience, part of it has to do with the fact that I most often don't know what God is trying to teach me until I get on the other side of the hardship. And then I look back in reflection, and sometimes I get it. Oh, that was it. Now, what I would really like to happen, but what doesn't seem to happen very often at all for me, is in the midst of the hardship to get it. Because I would just like that. Seems like if that were to happen, I could maybe alter my course in such a way that the hardship wouldn't be quite as hard. Doesn't happen that way for me very often. I'm trying to remember when. I don't have a memory of a time when that happened. Often, when I'm in hardship, it seems not so much like discipline as punishment. And I have an enemy. His name is Satan, Lucifer, the devil, the dragon. And he kind of, he punches buttons for replay on inaccurate, untrue messages. And one of the messages when I'm in hardship that he pushes a button on is, you deserve this. You're just stupid. Why would you think come on. You're an idiot. This is what happens to idiots. Anyway, I don't know if you ever hear those messages, but I do. What I want to learn to do is to hear, somehow filter it out so that I get to what God is teaching me through hardship. Jesus experienced hardship on a lot of levels, and ultimately the hardship of the cross, for crying out loud. And before that, the beatings and the lashings. And if you ever read an article, or there's several of them out there on the internet, about the physical nature of Jesus' scourging and crucifixion, you realize, I don't know how he stayed alive as long as he did. Hardship? You want to talk about hardship? Yeah. And that was a perfect Son of God. The punishment was because of my sin, not his. All right, I'll keep going. And he goes on and says, endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as his children. For what children are not disciplined by their father? Huh. That's kind of a rhetorical question. And he goes on and answers it in verse 8. If you are not disciplined, and everyone undergoes discipline, then you are not legitimate, not true sons and daughters at all. That's pretty cleaned up language for saying, if you're, the ones that don't get disciplined are bastards. They're not legitimate children. Wow. In verse 9, he goes on, moreover, we have all had human fathers who disciplined us, and we respect them for it. Now, I'm full of bunny trails today. Sorry, not sorry. If you had a human father who only punished you but never disciplined you, it's kind of hard to respect that. You feared it when you were younger, but at some point, you may have done one of a few things or all of the above. First of all, you feared them. Secondly, you made a vow you were going to get away from them as soon as you could. And third, in your mind you thought, and I will never be that way myself. One of the difficulties with the third one is it rarely works. Most of the time, we do to our kids what was done to us when we were a kid, until we learn otherwise and discipline ourselves away from the abuse of our childhood. If you were abused by your parents, by your father, and in Jewish culture, the father executed punishment and discipline. If you were abused by your father, make this your vow. You will learn how not to do that. If discipline does not follow punishment, it will become abusive. Just, that's a fact. But if discipline happened, if you were trained, then one of the results of that, there's two primary results. One is you learn how to live life more productively. And the other is you gain respect for your father, who taught you how to live a more productive and what's the word I'm trying to search for here? Feasible, and that's too weak of a word. How to live life well. That's important. Training ourselves as fathers and mothers to approach our children in that way is huge. I'm out of time. I'll hit this again next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.